Methodist Church.
Okay.
So they're local.
That's good.
So we have our grandson every Friday.
That's a joy.
That's our big day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. 9 months. That's busy.
Yeah. It's just really getting into things. Okay, she's giving us the ready side.
Ready to go? Ask for a continued conversation about the Indiana Miracle Offering for Global Health that we will celebrate at our annual conference June 8th through 10th in Indianapolis. I am fortunate to be joined by the Reverend Brian White at St. Mark's Carmel, and thank you for joining us, Brian.
It's great to be here, and welcome to Carmel.
Hey, it's just down the road. We're always excited to be here. As most of you know, we are called this year to do a special offering for global health that will benefit the Imagine No Malaria initiative and also the United Methodist Global AIDS Fund, both initiatives that were championed by us as United Methodist and have a significant impact in changing the landscape of global health throughout the world, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. So we have the opportunity to chat with Brian this morning about what that looks like coming from a local church and how do we articulate our need to do those things. So Brian, what do you think about this call for this offering?
Well, I think both of these are important initiatives. In 1999, I traveled to Zimbabwe, so I've experienced some of the malaria there firsthand. In 2006, when the Nothing But Nets campaign started, the church I was pastoring was one of the first churches on board with that. And it's been really exciting to see in the last 11 years us go from just trying to put a dent in this to actually saying, let's do away with malaria. So that's shown some really exciting progress. And so it's really nice to change our focus from, like I said, just trying to change, be a little bit of a game changer in sub-Saharan Africa, to actually say, let's get rid of this. Let's change this in the world. So that's very exciting. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad to have been a part of that for a number of years, and now to be a part of this next step. I appreciate Bishop Trimble's call for us to take that next step and to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. And as many of our churches around Indiana and across the connection have done lots of different things with either the Imagine No Malaria initiative or its predecessor, Nothing But Nets. And some of us have also participated in activities and awareness around the Global AIDS Fund. However, as the Indiana Conference, this is our first time doing something collectively for either. And so this is a big moment for us to really connect. What do you think are some really important things as we talk to our colleagues in ministry and also those our parishioners and church members about the call for and the need for global health awareness?
Well, I think there's always a need for global health awareness, and particularly there is a warm feeling about helping children. And so that's part of the reason that this initiative really, I think, hits us at the heart. And again, if you've visited sub-Saharan Africa, you know that there are many orphans because of the AIDS epidemic, and to be able to help them in both these ways really is an exciting thing. I think for me as a local church pastor, and as I think about annual conference, one of the things that I have enjoyed through the years is the pageantry, the unity of annual conference, and to think about bringing our offerings together as a unified whole in this time when we talk a lot about disunity. I think about this is something that we can do as a unified whole. This is something we can clearly ask everyone with excitement and good conscience. I think that's a really exciting thing, and I appreciate again the bishop calling us to that. And I think that's to think that this is his first annual conference with us, and this is his first invitation to us. I think that speaks a lot about his heart and the direction to which he's calling us.
Very true. And I think many of us have heard, if you've seen Bishop Trimble as he's traveled across Indiana, or has participated in Facebook Live chats with us, or you might have seen a sermon Facebook Live, is that he has a heart for health, and especially global health and mental health. And so, and the impact that, malaria has on communities, or HIV/AIDS has on communities in Africa, and also HIV/AIDS here in America, is tremendous in many different ways. So how do we help everyone understand that, we're all healthier and more whole when everyone is healthy and whole?
I think that's a great question, and we're sitting in the county in which Ryan White finished high school. Matter of fact, we were just talking about that in a small group recently here at the church. And so we think about, where we were in terms of AIDS education and awareness during Ryan White's life, and where we have come in regard to that, and to have opportunities to just take a little step further down the road in terms of understanding this disease and understanding the social impact of this disease, and helping us be a little healthier. So this is not just about helping someone with AIDS being healthier, it's about helping all of us be healthier and the way that we look at our society, and particularly the impact of AIDS in our society.
Very important. And as we talk about, in the local context of HIV/AIDS, it's really important for all of us to understand that all dollars that go to the Global AIDS Fund, from that, 25% remain in the annual conference that is raised from, to do the work of educating and prevention treatment, and all that good things that happen in helping us be a better community and understanding the impact around global AIDS. So what do you also think of, how can the church be partners in communities here locally, but also abroad?
Well, I think one of our commitments here at St. Mark's is to be active in our, and I think I would hope that every church would have a similar commitment. So we want to, sometimes it's easy to think, oh, that's a problem that's out there, it's somewhere else. We could send some people to help there with it. But the reality is that, particularly when we come to the mental health aspects and when we come to the social aspects, these are things that are part of all of our lives. And we are connected as a web. And so as we make, as you mentioned earlier, as we make part of it more healthy, we all become more healthy both emotionally and spiritually. And so not to think of this as being self-serving, because that's not the intent of the offering. It's to be a way for us to help. But I think we all realize whenever we lift someone else up, we all get lifted up a little bit more by that. And so part of our intent is to participate with people, to partner with people, to be a part of those kinds of healthy partnerships that not only help us live out our spiritual life, and part of our spiritual commitment is to help others, and in some mysterious way, we vicariously benefit from that as well.
Very true. And as if I were person who came in and said, well, we've got tons of things here, around Carmel or Indianapolis or just in Hamilton County or Marion County, how do we articulate, the overall, you're right, you talked about that network, that web of who we are.
Well, I think we live in a day and age which I think almost everybody realizes we are part of a global community. To think of ourselves exclusionarily as part of Hamilton County or Marion County or even Indiana, and to only think in those terms really isn't even realistic in our day and age. The things that we do here affect people all over the world, and vice versa. And so we want to see our neighbors locally and globally as people who have value, who should be a part of our ministry and interests, just as Jesus valued people in his inner circle, but he also valued the foreigner, the stranger in the midst, the Samaritans, and so we are called to expand our ministry. Jesus said when he left that you're going to minister to people in Jerusalem, to Samaria, to the ends of the world, and we're called to do that as well. What we've come to discover with more clarity in our day and age is how things in another part of the world can affect us, and that we really are bound together. And like I said earlier, when we lift someone else up, when we help someone else, or we partner with them, we are also lifted up in that partnership in ways that sometimes we might not realize until down the road.
Very true, very true. And so as we look at the issues of how we are connected to each other, both here locally and also abroad, it's important to know that there are networks that are one of the reasons why United Methodist Church is a part of a global partnership in both areas of Imagine No Malaria and also the Global AIDS Fund is that we have tons of health clinics throughout sub-Saharan Africa that are run and managed by our churches and our conferences there that allow us to have a real keen understanding of the communities and the demographics that are there, the languages the rich languages that are in each area, and also the understanding that they have, real context that they have, in understanding disease and infection and the ability to educate people. So one of the things that's really important to know is that just $10 is the metric for Imagine No Malaria to save a life, to provide a life-saving net or education or also treatment. And the same kind of thing can happen with the Global AIDS Fund, is that there's not a true down to the dollar and cent metric, but in $10 can provide education resources, access to testing and treatment, and that's very important. And one of the things that we all say here in America and also there is it's important that everyone know their status. So getting to a treatment center and understanding that it's not a scary process, and that we're working to help communities tear down stigma around HIV/AIDS is really important. But one of my key learnings out of this process actually through conversation was that so many people actually, when they go to get malaria testing or vice versa, find out they have one or the other or both. So it's kind of one of those things that's really important for us to continue this conversation. So tell us a little bit more about your experience in traveling in Africa and what did you see as malaria?
Well, my wife and I traveled with Bishop White to Africa University and in Zimbabwe primarily, but also in South Africa. I remember a day in which we were at the Hartsel School, which is across the street from Africa University. It's an historic Methodist mission, which has an orphanage and a high school, and I was kind of touring the high school, and the person I was just one-on-one with one of the care person who kept up the grounds, and we stopped we were walking through a dorm, and there was a dorm room open, and the caretaker kind of stuck his head in, and there was a student there who was having a bad day with malaria. And I remember just the physicality of that, and thinking, this is real. This is not something that is hypothetically out there. This student deals with that on a regular basis, and yet he's trying to get through high school, he's trying to finish his education, and he has a hindrance that most of us don't think about because he also has to deal with this disease. In that case, I don't know if it was or was not life-threatening, but it certainly was life-inhibiting. And then maybe that's something we don't talk about as much, is that it's not just the lives that are lost, it's the lives that are diminished by both of these diseases. And that's And so we can't quantify that, but it's a reality, and it's a way that we can help people.
Very true. So I'm going to take a look and see. We're going to continue chatting here for a moment, but we also want to encourage you, if you have questions for Brian or myself, or comments about how you are working to share this message in your community, with your church, your coworkers, your friends, family, or your small groups. What has been working for you to tell the story, or if you have celebrations, we'd love to hear them about where we are as we lead into conference in just a few weeks. So what do you think? We have set this vast goal of, what was it? 250,000 lives, 100,000 lives. How significant is that?
In Indiana, if each one of them would participate, and I'm not saying participate at a $10,000, $20,000 level, each one of them would commit to participate. Number one, that would be very life-giving for our conference to have that kind of unity around some kind of program and banner. And number two, this is the strength of the United Methodist Church, our connection. We have the opportunity to make an impact because we are connected together, and in our unity and in that the strength of that connection, we can make a lot more impact than any one of us could have as an individual church. And so I think that's one of the strengths. One of the other things I would say is that we as pastors and as local congregation leaders, we often set the priority for our congregations, and we get a lot of requests. And so it's important for us to see where we can have the most impact. And I would hope that this would be one of the requests that people would pay attention to, would participate in. And I'm looking forward to Friday afternoon of annual conference when we bring those offerings forward, and the pageantry, the spirit of that, which I think could be a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a uniting thing. I think it's it has so much and those lives that would be infected for years to come.
That's right.
I think one of the most important things the bishop has said is that everyone should have the opportunity to live to the fullest of their God-given potential. And this is an opportunity for us to be a partner in that, to realize that everyone across the world doesn't have that opportunity to live a life to become a healthy adult and to provide for their family and to grow and to learn more. And that's something that's really, really neat. I think also too, it's a really great opportunity for us to think about that.
I think a lot of times, you might as a small church out there say, I don't know if my gift has that much impact. But when you put it with other people's gifts and you combine all of these together, you can participate in something that's bigger than your congregation or bigger than the impact you might be able to make as an individual congregation. And that's worth celebrating. And I hope churches will celebrate that, not just at annual conference, but in their local congregations as well.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And I think it's kind of, I grew up in the Methodist Church, and I think at some point you could probably describe my growing up as super Methodist. But coming into a fuller understanding of why I was Methodist probably happened in my teenage years and early college. And there is, really no other place in the world that can have the potential that we have as United Methodist through the partnerships that we built globally and the work of our agencies and task force that do these things on the ground every day through partnership with us here in conferences and at the local church level. It's not something that any one person is doing alone, but this is us in the power of our unity and the connection at its best, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a great opportunity and a great mission closer to achieving those goals.
That's right. Well said.
Yes, I'm super excited. I'm looking at my technical staff because I don't know that I'm completely connected here on my iPad, so tell me if I'm not, if you're sending me things. But and then also too, what do you think it would look like if each one of our congregations was having a conversation on a regular basis about the issue of health in our communities and also globally?
Well, I think probably people are having conversations about, particularly our health locally, just if nothing else because of the nature of healthcare providers in the United States and some of the questions with that. So I'm not going to get political, but I think we're having those conversations. I think always the challenge is to move that conversation away from how it affects our lives to how it affects other people's lives, particularly how it affects lives in a global sense, and to see the connection between us and people around the world, and to realize that we can't talk about one without talking about the other. So I think we do have conversations. We just need to expand those conversations to include other folks.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's see here. We have one question coming in. With 2 weeks left until annual conference, what are some small things our congregations can do to make a big impact at annual conference through this offering? What do you think?
Well, I think as I think about our congregation, and one of the things is to, if you have not already taken an offering, obviously, taking an offering. And I think one of the things that I found powerful about the first conversation you had with Bishop Trimble is that he and First Lady Ray Selder made it known they were making a personal commitment to this. And a lot of times we as pastors and church leaders have to let people know that we have a personal stake in this as well, to say we're behind this personally. If we promote it as, oh, this is something the bishop wants us to do, that's very different than this is something we feel passionate about. I feel passionate about. I'm going to give to this, and I hope that you will give to do some self-examination themselves and say, am I really participating with this? Because people pick up on that pretty quickly, and they know whether you're really in or not in. And so I would hope that people would be all in with this.
Very true, very true. And it's also in step with the bishop. My colleagues on the extended cabinet have also made, each of us has made personal contributions or pledges to contribute, because it is very important. Each of us understands the aspect of, this is a great opportunity for us to make a huge impact in the lives of others, and those who are impacted directly or indirectly. Thing that we deal with in America.
That's correct.
We haven't dealt with it since the 50s, really, in any type of major context. So if you think about almost 60 years of not dealing with that here, but there's still lives being lost in other places in the world, we have a duty to share that, to make sure that other people aren't suffering from.
And this is no longer an overwhelming thing. I mean, when we started this 11 years ago, it felt like, this was an uphill battle, but now we're at the point, we could do this.
Yeah.
We can eradicate this problem from the world.
Yeah.
And that feels like that's energizing to know this is doable, this is possible.
And to even see it in the past, few years, that the lives being lost and the metric of, seconds is, now expanded, it's, much less. So we're seeing through a global partnership that we are having an impact, and that what once was daunting is actually very, very possible for us.
Yeah, I noticed, I went to the Nothing But Nets webpage today, and they said 10 years ago when they started this, there was one life lost every 30 seconds, and now it's one life every 2 minutes. Well, that doesn't seem significant. That's 4 times as much. So we're heading in the right direction, and like I said, this is doable for us, and that kind of creates a little bit of momentum.
Exactly. And so that's where we are, friends. I mean, we've got a prime opportunity to help that momentum continue. And with the work of our colleagues at Imagine Malaria and the global partnerships that include people like Sports Illustrated and also the Gates Foundation and so many others around the world, from CDC and so many different things, who are working to do the work of reducing and eliminating malaria is tremendous. And the same goes to be said about the Global AIDS Fund, is that there are partnerships from all different areas of the world here locally, with organizations like Ryan White, to many other partners through, I guess one of our conversations was with IU Health and the work that's happening in Kenya to look at children who are impacted by HIV/AIDS and how to help them live and thrive fully and have access to the treatment that they need, and also the preventative education that they need as they mature into adults, and also that their families need to help them cope and understand that this is not a death sentence anymore, that they can live full lives. And then also too, reducing stigma. We have got still tremendous work to do.
Yes.
But it's not impossible. And so I think that's an amazing thing. So I think that's it for us, Brian. What would you say as you leave us today?
Well, I think about, as you were talking, I was thinking about when we were in Zimbabwe. One Sunday we were getting ready to worship at Central Methodist Church, or Hilltop Methodist Church in Harare. 12, 11-year-old children with groups of children around them. These were children raising children. And that's one of the things about the AIDS epidemic that we don't realize, is how many families it's left with pre-adolescent children having to raise their brothers and sisters. And these kids need their parents, and they need a family, and we can help them have that.
Amen. So we can do our part to help everyone live a happy and full and healthy life. So this is our great opportunity to do that. If you need additional resources, please visit inumc.org/global health, or email me at the conference office, and I'd be happy to assist. And I also want to say a great thanks to you, Brian, for your insight and time.
It's good to have the discussion with you. I'm excited about this time in the conference. I look forward to the Bishop's offering.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us about this conversation about the Indiana Miracle Offering for Global Health benefiting Imagine Malaria and also the Global AIDS Fund. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.